Hello and welcome to the NHF position training video here. As I will be teaching you about each position that is involved whenever it comes to row hockey. First off, we're going to start off with goalie, a position that can be hard to learn, but is where most new players end up being put. As it's a good place to start in row hockey. Is a good place. Is a good way to put it. As you don't know much and you're just trying to get into the game of hockey, so you go in net. In net, but that's the most important part of the whole game, as that goalie has to make all the saves. You know, he's the last line of defense, just like in real life. And so whenever you're playing goalie, you want to angle yourself. You want to give yourself an angle, and you want to give yourself a chance to make the save, while also watching whoever is shooting on you. Now, it's a lot harder to make a save nowadays, but as long as you angle yourself and at least set yourself up good enough, that's pretty much all you can do. It's really about angling yourself, just like in real life. You want to set your angles, and you want to get yourself set, because if you're moving while playing goalie, it's most likely going to go through you, or maybe even bounce over your stick and go into the net, which you don't want, right? Okay, you obviously don't want that. Um, and so hopefully, if you do all those things right, you will be able to make the save, and everything will go good. All right. So, whenever you play defense, right? Whenever you're the defender, defense is also the next position that you usually end up getting into once you start getting the hang of row hockey. You usually start at defense because they don't want to put you at forward because you don't really understand. On defense, you usually want to stay at this blue line all the way to the back whenever they're in your zone trying to attack. You usually want to stay at this blue line, which is how it usually ends up working for starting out defensemen. But let's say it's a 2v2. Well, usually when you're playing defense, you want to make sure there's not a cherry picker, like a guy that would be standing about here and you're right here. You have to be able to watch him. It's like you got to keep like two eyes. You know, you got to be able to watch and try to pay attention of what's going on. Now, sometimes they may get behind you if you commit too much. You got to make sure, but you're also trying to score in a 2v2, and that's why it requires the defenseman to come up, because most of the time both the players of the opposition are usually defending, and it's a lot easier to score if you have all your guys down there. So that's why the defenseman usually needs to stay by the blue line, maybe stay at top and maybe commit, but still needs to keep his eye on that back in case they try to get a breakaway. In which, whenever you're playing defense, let's say you're in a 2-on-1 and there's a guy to this left over here and there's a guy to this right. The guy on the left's carrying the puck. You want to try to cut him off. You want to try to give yourself at least some kind of blockage from the pass. Obviously, you don't want that pass getting across, because most of the time that cross crease can be pretty deadly and end up resulting in a goal. So you don't want to give that up. And that's a big thing. As a defenseman, you're also like a second goalie sometimes for that goalie, as you can be standing there and block shots and set yourself up. You know, send yourself up as an angle and trying to steal the ball away and getting it cleared up to the forward. Now, whenever you play forward, it's a whole different story. As a forward, obviously, you know, you're going to get back every now and then. But when you're a forward, you have this mindset that it depends what you're playing. If you're playing a 2v2, usually the forward's trying to deke and, like this, score. Okay? Usually they're trying to score. And if it is a 2v2 and your defenseman is good enough to play it right, and as long as you don't turn it over, then you want to try to get yourself angled up and you want to try to pass like that. If there's a man there, you'll probably catch it. But there's nobody there right now. But you're basically trying to generate offense just like you would in real life. Now, sometimes it may be just the best option just to get it on net. You may not have a good enough angle, and it may just be best to get it on net, because at least then, if your defenseman is committing fully, that, let's say the defenseman comes and gets it, and he's committing fully, as a forward, you got to be well aware that, hey, my defenseman is committing, I have to get back now. Because in a 2v2, it's very crucial that defenseman and forward know when to switch. That is a very crucial thing. Now, There's a lot of communication involved in it, but usually if you're working with somebody who knows what he's doing and you know what you're doing, then it ends up being a pretty easy situation. Now, you got to make sure that you're communicating that and that your forward isn't just trying to score. Now, as a defenseman, if you know your forward is usually a guy that's not wanting to play defense, then your probably best bet would to be just to go back, because you don't want to give up that breakaway. Giving up a breakaway in a 2v2 is literally the worst thing you can do. Most of the time it ends up being a goal, and it ends up leaving your goalie dead set and pretty much probably going to get scored on, as sometimes goalies aren't always the best. So that's the forward, okay? Each position, pretty much basic understanding. That's pretty much the basics of what you need to know. Really, whenever it comes down to getting better at row hockey, it really comes down to playing games and getting more experience and playing against other players to get better for yourself. Now, everyone has different ways of shooting the ball. The easiest way to start out whenever you first play is to do backhand. Backhand is the easiest thing to start out with. It just is. It just ends up being better. You're more able to walk with it, right? So, whenever you first start out, you want to use the D key if you're going backhand like this, and you just want to hit your shift key and go boom. But not like whiff, but you want to go boom. You want to be able to hit it. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Once you pretty much learn the basics of how to hit it, a big thing as a defenseman is also clearing. You gotta know where to clear. Here is something I want to give advice for. If you are by this net and you are right here, do not, I repeat, do not clear in front of the goalie if there is a person there. That is an easy steal and an easy goal. If you do that, that's such an easy goal for the opposition. Please, it requires some thinking of what to do. If you're in doubt, just clear it down. Just get rid of it. Just go. Just get rid of it. Get it out of the zone. Because as a defenseman, you're protecting your zone. You have got to get it out. You got to be thinking on your head, and you got to be moving, and you got to make quick decisions. And that doesn't mean you always need to clear it down. But if you do feel like you're not going to be able to, you're going to lose the ball maybe, then just clear it down. But you want to try to play it smart if there's another guy there. Another thing. Let's say you're playing a guy like Simiver. That's a big thing. Like a guy that you can't really control the latency about. There's nothing that you can really do. Just try to help your goalie and try to block the shot more than anything. But you want to just try to steal the ball if possible. But sometimes there's just nothing you can do with latency nowadays. But pretty much focus on those positions. Learn to get better. Learning to clear is a major thing. You want to start with that because once you pretty much learn to clear, then you can start focusing on everything else. And everything else starts to become a lot easier to you as you learn to play the game. Forward is really for the more advanced people, the people who know what they're doing and know how to score, and they pretty much know how to shoot more than everybody else. They're usually playing the forward position, and they're usually going to get shots on net. Goalie is a position that I started out with myself, and I sucked. I was terrible. But you can always get better, and it's going to suck at first. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be boring. You're going to be like, well, why do I even want to play? I suck. That's the whole fun of it, is getting better, is learning to play the game, so that way you can become dominant and basically flex on everybody else who said you sucked before and win a cup before them maybe. That's really what it's about. It's about having a good time, and it's about getting better. That's really what row hockey is about. Now, there's always going to be toxic people. It's going to happen. It happens in every league, I feel like, and there can't really control every league, so just try your best and enjoy the league.